It's time for Tupelo Tom and Big Lou talking. And now, here's Tupelo Tom and Big Lou.
I'm Tupelo Tom.
And I'm Big Lou. And we're talking.
Oh, my goodness. That little guitar lick at the end of the open is just so sassy.
Some would say it rocks.
It does rock. It's great to be talking to you. We survived Elvis Week.
Barely.
I was going to say I survived without any noticeable degradation in health. Jeff, yours was not the same.
I don't have COVID, but I do have the post-festival funk that people get a lot of times at these festivals. But I am surviving. Sometimes you got to play hurt, as the great Dan Jenkins wrote one day.
That's right. And a lot of people, of course, as we were saying, Elvis Week, 9 days, Elvis Week. And I just figured it up. I was in the guest house hotel 10 nights. And that's a lot of missed room service, I got to tell you.
I was in the Atlanta airport 2 nights, and then I was at the guest house.
Yeah, that wasn't planned on your part. You started rocky, but you pulled it together there by the end of the week.
And I got to hand it to the Memphis airport and the folks at the guest house. They did get me my luggage, and they called me in my room while I was asleep and said, your luggage is here. So thank you for everybody that was involved in that, because I'm sure they're listening.
Well, and also, by the way, saying they called and woke you up, it could have been 2 PM. I mean,
it was, I think, actually.
There you go. There you go.
Well, what a great week it was. You know, I wrote this on my Facebook post that every year I say Elvis Week can't get any better than this, and it continues to get better every year. There were so many fun events. I thought EPE did a great job of really putting on some great and original ultimate and ETA events. I thought that were fun, and your conversations was fantastic, and that's kind of what we're here to recap and talk about.
When you go to festivals like this and you're working the festival, you don't get to really enjoy as many shows as you would if you were a fan going to the festival, because being a fan means you just go and there's no preparation involved other than selecting your outfit, to go to the party or the concert. But when you're working a festival, any downtime is spent either prepping for your next event that you host or resting from the previous event for the next event you're hosting. So there's a lot of holes in my schedule that I look back over Elvis Week and I was like, oh, I wish I could have been at that show. But we're working, and so we don't get around. So it's been fun reading everybody on the social medias about what they were able to do, and all the people that were, again, like we've been experiencing with the festivals around the country that we've attended this year, all the young fans that are going to first-time festivals and a lot of first-time Elvis Week attendees. So it's great to meet them.
And we started off Elvis Week, or I started off Elvis Week, with a contest that I'm so glad has come back, and that, of course, is the Last Chance. Mm-hmm. I won the Last Chance in 2013. That allowed me to be a part of the Ultimate one time. It was a goal I never thought would happen. So it's a very special contest to me. My first Elvis Week, I got runner-up in it, and that kind of put me on the map of the Elvis world back when I was in ETA. Mm-hmm. And it was real exciting because Ben Thompson won the Last Chance a few years ago and then went on to win the Ultimate. Then we didn't have it for a couple of years. And then we had the Last Chance that Victor Trevino Jr. won, and he ended up winning the Ultimate. And then we had the First Chance, which we'll talk about, and a special young man won that, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So the Last Chance was fantastic, and Cliff Wright won it. Congratulations, Cliff, and went on to be in the Ultimate. And, of course, everybody knows Cliff's band, Infinity, which is a great band we have in the Elvis world now. Wednesday night, first round of the Ultimate, and my after party, we had Jason Russo with TIC from Australia, Heitor Crespo, who plays guitar with them. He's from Brazil. 2 outstanding musicians and young men. We've talked about Finley Watkins and Braxton Sykes, who are phenomenal guitar players already. Radney Pennington played bass, and he's such a great entertainer. We had Jody McDowell on piano. Dean Z was there. Of course, everybody knows Dean, and he's such a phenomenal guy and great talent. Timmy joined us, and Daniel with Infinity played some drums with us as well. Casey Hutchinson, we'll talk about her in a little bit as well. She's a great singer. Michaela McDowell, all of them joined us, along with a lot of ETAs that were there, guests from all over the world. And it was probably our best after party to date, certainly with Elvis Presley Enterprises. I'm so glad that they have us be a part of that. But that kind of kicked the week off, and it just went up from there.
Yeah, and that's one of those shows I didn't get to go to. So, yeah, sounds like it was a fun time I missed. But that was a day I'd also started doing. I figured it up, Jeff. I did 3 hidden Graceland tours with Angie Marchese. I did 3 Linda Thompson tours with Angie Marchese and Linda, and I did 2 with Jerry and Angie, and 10 people at each of those tours. And between the 8 Graceland tours, I spent a little over 24 hours in the mansion in Graceland.
And when you say Jerry, of course, you mean Jerry Schilling, who we were so fortunate to interview in our best podcast to date. It was such an honor. Tom, if you don't mind, because I want to go on that tour so bad, but, the founders get the first dibs, and they always sell out right away. Tell us about what the tour entails.
Well, I mean, it's only 10 people. And the tour really is organic in that we kind of ebb and flow by what people are interested in. And Angie, we start in the living room. We have show and tell. We bring some items out for you to see that might be in drawers or in cabinets. And usually there's the opportunity to remove one's shoes and to, in your shoeless feet, walk over the white carpet in the living room into the music room and take some photos around the piano and the mirror on the wall, which is a mirror that was on Audubon in the house. And there's a famous photo with Gladys and Elvis in the mirror. Lisa used the mirror for a record promo shoot, and then you can take your picture with the mirror in the music room.
Wow.
But and an opportunity to look at Graceland from that angle back toward the foyer and into the dining room, which is always interesting. And we go kind of room to room, and there's opportunities for you in some of the rooms to be able to visually go some places and see some things that you can't do on a regular tour. And we always ask people not to post anything on social media until all the tours are complete, because we want them to be a surprise for the rest of the people that are on the tour. And then the Linda and Jerry Schilling tours, Linda Thompson and Jerry Schilling. Linda lived at the mansion for about 4.5 years with Elvis, and she has some fantastic stories. And just walking around the mansion and telling us about things that happened in particular places, like, Elvis was doing karate here. Here's where he was when he shot the TV in the jungle. I mean, just different stories. Wow. Like that, just amazing things. And Jerry, the same thing. I mean, talking about stories that happened inside the mansion in the places that they happened. I mean, to hear Jerry talk about sitting down and having breakfast with Dodger in the morning, Elvis's grandmother, and in the kitchen and showing the counter, like, I sat here, he said, and she sat there, and we talked about things. It's just a neat opportunity, and people interaction back and forth. There's only 10 people. You get to ask all the questions you want to ask of those people. And there's also a photo opportunity. Robert Dye from EPE, the photographer, comes and takes your official photograph with the celebrity. And it's a really neat tour. And they always, you're right, they always sell out rather quickly. And I hope they continue them on, because I know it doesn't give a lot of people an opportunity to participate, but those people that do, it is the kind of tour that is just once in a lifetime. I mean, it's such a special way to see the mansion. And Linda's and the hidden tours were at 6 p.m., so it's golden hour. So a lot of people, you take photos out in front of the mansion with the sun, because the sun's going down in the west, and it casts beautiful golden light onto Graceland at that time of day. The Jerry and Linda tours were at 10 o'clock at night is when they started. So you're in the mansion kind of when the mansion would have been waking up if Elvis were here. So to be in there after midnight, and it always ends, everyone goes to Meditation Garden, and it's just a nice, and you really feel how it's a home when there's just that few people in the mansion.
Well, there's a lot of cool things about having you as one of my best friends. And if anybody hadn't seen it, please go look up the Gates of Graceland YouTube series, which you were part of. And I love the perspective you'd always give where you would go in a room and turn around and point the camera where we would normally be.
Yeah.
Looking at the room. And I remember the billiards room. I was sitting there going, I wonder what's in one of those drawers. And sure enough, you open it, there's chalk.
Yeah.
I thought that's exactly what I would have done. Do you have a favorite room when you go in and just go, well, I just love this right here?
I love the TV room downstairs, the room with the 3 televisions, because that's what I would have had, had I been Elvis back in the day like that. What I love about it is there are 3 televisions in the TV room, and on those televisions is a loop of video. And on screen number 1 is Outlaw Josie Wales. Screen number 2 is Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. Screen number 3 is Dr. Strangelove with Peter Sellers. And all 3 of those tape loops, or video loops, or whatever system they're using, are direct dubs from Elvis's video collection. So Angie Marchese, head of archives, transferred those images from Elvis's VHS tapes that he had back in the 70s. So you're literally watching what Elvis watched. And I love that, the one in the middle is Johnny Carson, because, that's why I do this. And so to see, and that was one of the things that came up a lot too, that they would be having breakfast, at 10 o'clock at night, and at 10:30, Elvis would have the TV turned on, and they didn't go anywhere until he heard Johnny Carson's monologue. And then the night started about 10:45.
Angie has just done an unbelievable job there. I love the new exhibit. I've been through that exhibit, I can't tell you how many times. And yet every time they make a change, she does such a fantastic job of telling the story we've heard a million times in a brand new way. So you feel like you're seeing it for the first time. They had the tablecloth there that Colonel Parker did the contract on that you see is referenced in the movie. And I love how Linda posted 2 pictures on her Facebook page. One holding, I guess it's I don't know what you call it, a
rolling
bread
pin.
rolling pin.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm a chef. And she was holding it up exactly like a picture of her back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then when she sat on that same chair in the Jungle Room, which I loved in your interview with her in conversation, she goes, we called it the Den, and that same picture I thought was really gave you perspective. But that's definitely a tour I would love to take. And congratulations, Angie, for doing such an amazing job and continuing to give us the thing over and over like it's brand new.
Yeah, the exhibits, even 5 years after having a huge exhibit for the 68 50th, to have a 55th anniversary edition of that, but to do it in a way that almost recreates sets from the 68 special. And one of the gentlemen that I talked to during conversations had some great insight. He was the art director, which we'll talk about when we kind of get to that. But just to be able to see all those things. And on Sunday night of the week, I spent 3 or 4 hours in the jumpsuit display. I was doing an archival interview with Jay Osmond from the Osmond brothers that was a guest during Elvis Week. And we were doing this for Graceland's Archives, getting the Osmond and Elvis story on tape for them to be able to use later. But I also sat down with Linda and probably did about a 30-minute interview with Linda, which Andy Childs utilized portions of that interview during the Aloha concert. So when Linda appeared, if you went to the Aloha concert and you saw Linda appear during the concert, that's stuff that I had shot on Sunday night because she was scheduled to go home on that day, and she has a new grandbaby, and she wanted to see her grandbaby, so she couldn't stay for Aloha. So Andy said, well, you're going to be there by video then. And so she came over. But that night I was able to spend about 3 hours in that museum with the jumpsuits and that whole, and I mean, to be able to walk around with no one in there and just take your time and see everything and read every placard and look at every item. It's a wonderful opportunity. And even when it's open to the public, it's just such a well laid out museum. And you still are stunned at that jumpsuit display every time you walk in. And then also I just happened to run into Dean Z and Cote Deonath when we were all kind of walking into the Elvis movie display. So we kind of all went through there together and looked at different items, costumes and drawings from the movie. Which showed the amazing amount of detail that Baz Luhrmann brought to the film for things that might not have even shown up on camera. but he wanted to get it right. So there's so much to see. Like I say now, you have to add a day to your Graceland experience now, because there's just so much to see. You can spend half a day in the mansion and another day, full day in all the museums together, because there's so much that's been thought through and on display.
The suit display was just overwhelming, the way they set it up. I was kind of concerned because I loved how they had it where you could walk right up next to the suits. But the way she displayed it this time, you see them so vividly, and seeing them next to each other, and the explanation of what each suit was called and what it was just really great. We also had another couple special guests for the after parties. Jesse Kramer, who's a great musician and rocker, and a guy that I met and we all got to know. Super guy, incredible musician. I've downloaded a bunch of his music. Very charismatic. He was a judge, Spencer Sutherland.
Yeah.
And what a great guy and a great talent. And I'm now a huge fan. We definitely want to have him on the podcast. He's a big fan of ours, which makes him very smart.
Yes. I listen to a lot of his music, and I mean, it's such happy, fun music, the videos and everything.
It's like Earth, Wind, and Fire and 70s and rock. And it's like the 70s met a folk rocker. I don't know how to describe it, but trust me, download his music. He is fantastic. And of course, Pat Dunn was a host, as well as Dean Z. Dwight Eisenhower hosted some. It was just a fun mix of guys, and it kind of felt like the old days when I first started, and everybody was getting along, having a great time, and it was just a fantastic week. The New Generation show featuring a lot of the new acts that are so talented. The Elvis world's never going away. They just get younger and better. And Tom, I want to talk about your conversations as well, and then we'll get to the ultimate, because we might have a special guest here. But you asked a question during conversations, and this is packed. I don't know how many people fit in the soundstage area there, but it was packed. And you said, how many are here for your first ever Elvis event? And it was over half the room.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting time to be in the Elvis world. It's always exciting to be an Elvis fan. But, of course, you had some great guests and conversations. You maneuvered through that as only Tom Brown can. I told you that personally that the Osmond interview was so cool. I had no idea about. Talk a little bit about what he had to say about the relationship with Elvis and the Osmond brothers. That was so cool, about the jumpsuits and everything.
Well, when I had interviewed him on Sunday night, and Conversations was on Tuesday, maybe? Yeah, I think maybe Tuesday. It's a blur, Jeff. I had brought a couple of albums from my collection. I had brought an Osmonds album where they were all wearing like just normal clothes, normal 60s clothes. It was an album from 1970. They're wearing like black pants and colored shirts with collars and regular, like pilgrim shoes, with buckles and stuff. And they just look like clean cut young American kids. And then their very next album, they're wearing like jumpsuits with fringe, and they're all jumping the whole cover of the thing. They're jumping around. They're all over the stage. It's just this blur. Now, I had assumed in 1971 that they had stolen Elvis's look. And I had assumed that all these years, thinking bad things about the Osmonds, but still loving their music. One Bad Apple, Don't Spoil the Whole Bunch, Girl. I love that song. Down by the Lazy River, I play it every day. I love the Osmonds. But I always had this thing inside that they stole that from El. Why did they do that? It's so obvious, those jumpsuits. But Jeff, what I discovered was they were playing the Hilton. Elvis saw them and loved them, had seen them on the Andy Williams show in the 60s, had seen them on television, and came backstage to see them. Nancy Sinatra introduced them to Elvis. Nancy, of course, Speedway co-star. Elvis had watched from the light booth, the show, and he came backstage, and he introduced himself to the Osmonds, and he said, "Brothers, I love you guys, but you need to butch it up just a little bit." Because they were tap dancing, they were having fun. It was a family show. But he goes, "Guys, you got to get tough. You got to be a little rougher around the edges."
It's tough to butch it up when you're tap dancing.
Yeah, it's hard it's kind of like riding in the back of a pickup. There's just no way to do it and look cool,
Right.
My dad told me that years ago. There ain't no way to ride in the back of a pickup and look cool. And so he said, "I'm going to send my costume designer to meet with you. You guys need jumpsuits because you're jumping all over the place. And you got to lose the tap shoes." So it was Elvis's influence. And he also got them karate lessons. Now he said, I want you to learn karate because it'll give your stage movements, it'll flow better for stage movements. And Ed Parker was working with Elvis at the time, but he couldn't do it because he was touring with Elvis. Kang Ree, Elvis's instructor in Memphis, was in Memphis, and the Osmonds lived in Utah and were in Nevada for Vegas. So he turned them on to a young up-and-coming karate instructor. Elvis said, I've been to this guy a few times. He's up-and-coming. You don't know him, but I think he's going to be big one day. And his name is Chuck Norris.
Wow.
And so that was their karate instructor in like the early 1970s.
That's incredible.
And he told about how Elvis had influenced their stage movements and kind of how they looked at music and the amazing relationship that Elvis had and love Elvis had with Mother Osmond. Because she was a theologian. She knew a lot about the Bible, and she was an expert in the stories of the Bible. And he would call her at all times and talk to her for hours about the Bible, about theology. And he said, so there was this great connection between the Osmond family and Elvis, who Jay said as he got older, he realized there was something about the Osmonds. Elvis loved the sound of the Osmonds. He loved the blend of their voices together. And he loved the fact that it was all brothers because Elvis was born an only child with a twin who died at birth. And he didn't know that relationship that brothers could have. He said, but he was very much an older brother to the Osmonds. And they stayed in touch for years because of his love of the Osmonds.
So cool. And you interviewed several people that had a big role in the 68 special.
Yeah, Mike Deasy, who was a member of the Wrecking Crew recording. I mean, look this guy up. Mike Deasy played pretty much on every pop song, rock song from the 60s that were recorded in Los Angeles as a member of the Wrecking Crew with, James Burton and Glenn Campbell guitar players with him. A lot of Monkees hits, a lot of Neil Diamond, a lot of Sonny and Cher. And he was also a musician on all the music parts of the 68 special. And he said they just sat back in amazement at what Elvis could do and how incredibly nice he was, and how, while it wasn't as apparent then, but it became apparent obviously in later years, how really important the 68 special was in Elvis resetting his career. Movies were not as successful. This special was kind of a make or break for Elvis to reestablish himself. And the story, the well-known story, especially for fans of the Austin Butler movie, of Elvis making a stand against the Colonel and saying, this is the kind of special I want to do with Steve Bender, and getting away from what was at the time kind of a normal way to do a variety show. A Christmas special is all Christmas songs. And at the end you say, Merry Christmas, everybody. And that's the end of the show. And it was interesting in hearing him talk about Elvis as a musician. It was interesting. Gene McAvoy was there, who was the art director. If you've got the album to the 68 special, his name is on the back cover as art director. So he was there talking about working with Steve Bender, who was the producer. They had worked together on other projects. Billy Goldenberg, who was the music director, who was there 5 years ago for the 50th anniversary. He and Gene were best friends. And Gene talking about how the look of the 68 special came about. If you go back and look at specials from the late 60s, they all kind of have that pop look with lots of colors and things going on. He said, but he really wanted Elvis to be front and center on television. And so he kept the colors. It was all, he said, black and red. Everything was dark for the set, so Elvis would pop on the camera. And he talked about building the boxes for the guitar players that we see in the open, and the logistical problems they had of building those boxes, and then the choreographer training 60-something or 80-something dancers. And Gene said at one point he walked by and he saw all the dancers rehearsing, and he said, "What are you doing?" And the choreographer said, "We're all dancing in synchronization." And Gene said, "You can't do that in those boxes. If you do that in those boxes, you'll bring them down, because the rhythmatic, 80 people going in rhythm," he said, that it can't stand that. When soldiers are marching, when they come to a bridge, they get out of step, because the steps of 80 people can cause damage with that rhythmatic marching. So the choreographer very quickly said that he started numbering. He said he just went down the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you were a 1, you turned to the left on the downbeat. If you were a 2, you looked up. I mean, so if you look at the boxes, there's always people moving in different directions next to each other, because if not, it would have, it was structurally, it would have brought it down. He talked about how Elvis was one of the very few people he ever met, in fact, maybe the only one he ever met, that could stand in front of his own name in sky-high letters, and it wouldn't look like an ego trip. That Elvis signage at the very end of the show is something that he said only Elvis could have pulled it off. And what I found out I didn't know, those letters were attached to the boxes from the beginning of the show.
No, wow.
So they just weren't lit. So in there, where you see when the camera pulls back from the Elvis letters and you see Elvis alone, like playing his guitar, he's just standing in one of the guitar player boxes. It wasn't a process shot. It was literally a shot on a crane with those giant ELVIS attached to the guitar boxes. I mean, just little tidbits like that are just fascinating stories. And we had Gene McAvoy. We also had Glenn D. We talked about Glenn D. Harden, Elvis's piano player. We talked about Aloha from Hawaii. Graceland, again, found somebody that a lot of fans had never heard of that had a fantastic story. Janice Vidal, whose father, Eddie Vidal, was a DJ in Dallas and a theater owner that Elvis became friends with in the 50s when they would tour through Dallas. And when Elvis got in the Army at Fort Chaffee in Arkansas, he would go spend time with the family. And they have a home in Waco that Elvis visited many times. And she has an Airbnb at this home in Waco. And she's eagerly awaiting everyone's arrival for the Elvis Festival that's going to be in Waco in a few months. And she's waiting to welcome Elvis fans to Waco. It's going to be a fun time. So that was Janice. We had Ernst Jorgensen from Sony, who talked about the remix of Aloha from Hawaii. We had Alan Bly, who was a writer on the 68 Comeback Special, shared stories about that. We had Jay Osmond telling his stories. And then, Jeff.
Oh, man, this is so great.
Then I became 12 years old, quickly recovered, and basically introduced one of my heroes from childhood, who turned out to be everything I ever wanted, Lee Majors. Steve Austin, astronaut, a man barely alive.
I stayed in Memphis just so I could see Lee Majors. I had the doll. I was, she's breaking up. We remember that.
Oh, yeah.
He's the only man that fought and defeated Andre the Giant, which, of course, would be Bigfoot in the show.
That's right.
Not counting the fixed match with Hulk Hogan, which Andre still got ripped off on. But I digress. But no, it was – and, Tom, I can tell you as a guy in the audience, when he walked out, it was just, well, there's a movie star.
Yeah.
There's a Hollywood star. He was as cool. What is he, 84?
84. Yep.
And I was like, he's actually a real human being. And the way you handled that interview was genius. And why don't you tell them what they did? I was sitting there laughing, and I was watching, and I thought only Tom would know how to handle this. You handled it perfect.
When I had talked to him on the phone previous, he wanted I got Alicia Dean from EPE is my liaison on all the conversations and all the events that I host. And she said, Lee Majors said he wanted to talk to Tom. And I said, did he say those words? Did he physically say, I want to talk to Tom? And he referred to me by name. And she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, then that's just the coolest thing ever. She said, well, you're about to have an accident on yourself because I have to give you his phone number now. And I freaked out again. And Jeff, I got to tell you, it reminded me of when I was a kid trying to get up the courage to call a girl for a date.
Yeah.
You kind of walked around a little bit and you walked in the living room and said, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be on the phone a little bit. So don't get on the phone because I've got to call somebody. And then you sat there for 20 minutes trying to get enough courage to call, and that's kind of what it was like calling Lee Majors. And when he answered, I was like, well, that's obviously Lee Majors. He sounds just like himself. And he was fantastic. And he said, Tom, I've done this a long time. And usually what I do is, somebody asks me a question and I just answer the question I think they should have asked. He said, but I've been working on my autobiography and I just written a bunch of sections about Elvis. He said, you know what? Instead of you peppering me with questions and maybe not getting one of these stories, do you think the audience would be okay? Again, would the audience be okay with not being asked questions, but is basically doing a reading from his? And I said, Lee, that would be fantastic. not realizing that I had called him Lee without asking.
Yeah, right.
But he didn't blink, so that was cool. And that's kind of what he did. I mean, he walked out, he had his folder with him, but Jeff, you're exactly right. He came out, and here's the thing. I walked on stage at 10 a.m. Lee wasn't backstage then. The first couple of guests were backstage. I walked off stage at 1:30, 1:28 to be exact, because I have a clock on stage. 1:28. I'd been on stage 3 hours and 28 minutes. When I got off stage, Lee was not there. So I never saw him off stage. You saw the extent of my interaction with Lee. And what I heard made it very, very sad that I was still on stage. They said he was backstage. He was taking pictures with people. He was signing autographs. He was doing all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I even brought a picture. I wanted him to sign. Oh man, I'm not going to get his autograph. He was fantastic. That afternoon, I get a text. Hey, Tom, just want to say thank you for being so kind and making it easy for me. Send thanks to the entire crew and everyone who worked on this project. They were kind and totally professional. Stay in touch, my friend, and God bless you, Lee.
That's so great.
And I texted him back, and in a very subtle, I thought, way, he's going to be sending me an autograph picture.
That's so cool.
So there you go.
Well, he walked out, and you said, and again, knowing you the way I do, it was so, I knew what you were thinking. I'm talking to Lee Majors, and you said, so how did you meet Elvis? And he goes, that's the way it's going to be, huh? And you were laughing, and he was having a great time. But when he turned and left, he hugged your neck. He turned and started walking off stage. And right before he got off the stage, he looked at the audience and started doing it in slow motion.
Yes. Yes. So when Lee leaves in slow motion, all I can think about is for the previous 20 minutes, I have a monitor on stage, a video monitor, so I can see what's on the big screens up there. And I would look down every now and then out of the corner of my eye, and I would see the two shot of me on the left and Lee Majors on the right. And all I could think about was, I'm on TV with Lee Majors. I mean, and listen, if you weren't around in the 70s, you have no idea what this man meant to us. And then in the 80s in Fall Guy, and in the 60s in Big Valley, the guy had three hits. He had 3 hit series in 3 different decades. Unbelievable. Yeah. And he met Elvis in the 60s when Elvis was doing the movie Clambake. And he talked about, as a joke, doing a cameo behind Elvis that Elvis didn't know about. And and the only time I interrupted him the whole time, he was telling the story about the cameo. I said, and all I did was I touched him. I go, Lee, and he looked at me like, yeah. I go, we have that clip if you want to see it. And he was like, yeah, I want to see it. Run it. So, I didn't want to interrupt, but I was like, I had that clip. And it's the coolest, funniest. I urge you to Google Lee Majors cameo Clambake. It's the funniest bit of film you will ever see.
It's great.
It's great. And it's even better knowing that Elvis didn't know what was going on behind him. And all I could think about when Lee ran off in slow motion was last year, I think it was last year, we had Barbara Eden. And Barbara Eden came on stage and went off stage doing the genie blink, right? And I'm standing there, and she does the genie blink. And then standing on the stage with Lee, and he runs off in slow motion like the $6 Million Man. I said, the only one I missed was being on stage with Adam West, like changing into Batman and sliding down a bat pole, because those were like 3 of my icons from childhood that I've been on stage with 2 of them doing their bit, doing their thing. And for Lee to do that was just unbelievable.
It was so cool.
And then, thank goodness, when we were putting conversations together, Linda Thompson was going to be a guest. And I said, I want Linda last, because I knew by that time I would have been on stage for, close to 3 hours. And I needed a good talker, somebody that I don't have to dig. I'm 3 hours into this. I want to close with a biggie that's going to help me help them. And Linda is just one of the best at being on stage and telling stories. And here's the thing I found out, Jeff. She's only been back to Graceland 1 or 2 times. So the emotion of being in the mansion with her on those private tours was still incredibly new to her. She's not used to coming back to Graceland without Elvis being there.
Mm-hmm.
We've, some fans, we've toured Graceland hundreds and hundreds of times. But imagine for her being back for maybe only the 2nd or 3rd time since she walked out those doors at the funeral. it's all still so new to her, those memories, and she hasn't overshared them.
Yes.
She's not a storyteller that is, okay, I'm telling story number 37 here. Let me just go ahead and tell you that story. Everything meant something to her, and very emotional time. But I'm so glad that conversations ended with her, because it was just such a wonderful story of her and Elvis, and just how much she was loved, not only by all the guys with Elvis, but by Vernon Presley, by the whole family, and her relationship that she talked about during the memorial with Lisa Marie. Just an amazing conversation. I'm so glad you stayed for it. From what I heard with everybody, it didn't feel like 3 hours and 28 minutes.
No, it sure didn't. And a couple of the highlights with Linda, of course, was she described in detail, and I'm not comfortable enough in my manhood to repeat it, what it was like to kiss Elvis. But I'm sure all the ladies loved that.
Mm-hmm.
Has something to do with putting marshmallows together, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
And that he always smelled clean, like Neutrogena.
She said he also used high karate aftershave. So
there you go.
I urge you to Google those commercials and see if they'd be making those commercials these days.
Right. Yeah. And there's a very powerful picture of her and Jerry at Schilling at Meditation Gardens. And boy, it really puts in perspective. Elvis Presley was a real person that had family and friends, and they lost a family member and a friend. We just lost an icon. And it's a very powerful picture, I thought.
It was, and it was wonderful for Jerry, because Jerry hadn't seen Linda recently, and for them to have time together and doing those tours with both of them, it's still new to Jerry. It still hurts Jerry to come back in there, because he lived there. He had that apartment, that little room downstairs off the TV room. It was just a nice Elvis week, and in what we call an off year. It wasn't a 40th or a 45th. It was an off year numerologically speaking.
Yeah,
that's the way to say that, right?
Yeah.
Except quicker and with more confidence. But this number was not an iconic number, but it was just a fantastic Graceland. EPE continues to put together these events for the ETA fans, for the Elvis fans, for hopefully fans of both, to be able to come and spend that kind of time together. And if I heard the word family once, Jeff, I heard family 1,000 times, that the performers, the fans, that we are all family. And Jerry reminded me, Elvis loved to introduce people to each other. He loved to introduce the plumber to the doctor. And Elvis fans come together, and no matter, even Toki, the performer who is Japanese, we all communicate through Elvis and the music. And that guy from Tupelo still brings people together, and it's absolutely amazing.
It is, and we'll get to something Toki said that was hilarious in the Ultimate, because we do have a special guest that we'd like to interview after this break.
Well, I was trying to run out the clock, so we ran out of time and didn't get to him.
Yeah,
but,
well, he's here, so I guess we have to.
No, he's a good friend of mine, and I feel like the road to victory started at SummerSlam. I really do feel that road to victory started there, and if that's not a tease, I don't know what is, Jeff.
That's right. Well, Tom, let's take a break, and we'll come back with our very special guest, and it's his first interview since winning the Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Championship.
Right after this.
My name is Cote Deonath, and I am the 2023 Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Champion, and you're listening to Tupelo Tom and Big Lou Talking.
All right, Jeffrey, enough with the tease. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the 2023 Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Champion, our friend and yours, Cote Deonath. Congratulations, Cote.
Cody!
What is up, guys?
We'll dub in thunderous applause there, so you'll hear thunderous
dub
applause.
it in.
And some of you've heard us talk about ETA festivals and all these festivals we put on. This is the man that owns the company, and we are his humble employees and now servants. That's what happens when you win the Ultimate. You go from an employee to a servant. That's one of the rules in the bylaws. I tell you, Tom, for those of you that aren't friends with me on Facebook and didn't read it, I kind of want to give a little intro to this young man. I met him, I think, Cody, what was it, 2015 when you came with Carolyn?
It's 2015, yeah.
2015. I have a festival in Helen, Georgia. Jeff Lewis and friends, and Carolyn, who was an angel, sadly is not with us any longer, Carolyn Nichols. And she told me about this young man that was dating her granddaughter, and he was a young ETA. And if I minded if he came and hung out. And I was like, oh, God. Oh, sure, Carolyn. You never turned down Carolyn, but I was just rolling my eyes thinking, oh, great. And I met him then, and he was a very young man at the time. And then over time, he goes on and he starts winning some contests. And I tell a story about he was in one contest he clearly should have won. And I remember one of the parties that was putting on the contest said something about to the effect of, oh, he's so great, but he's just short. And I said, wait a minute, there's a height requirement and he's as tall as a guy that had just won the ultimate. I said, you took his money, so you just told me that you had no intention of letting him win before the contest. I kind of became a defendant of the young man. Then he goes on to win, which is something to me as special as the ultimate, and that's the Tupelo Elvis Championship. And he was really competitive. And one day I told him, I said, Cody, you won Tupelo. Who cares? You're winning these contests. You've got some festivals. You're never going to win the ultimate. You don't look like Elvis. And then he went to work. And he started working with other ETAs with his makeup and his look, and his voice has always been amazing. And one day I looked at him, I said, daggone, you could win the ultimate. And we're going to get into details about how close he came. And so I've never been prouder or happier to be wrong in my life than for Cody to win this. Cody, I want you to say, before you say anything else, I want you to say, my name's Cote Deonath, and I'm the ultimate Elvis Tribute Champion of 2023. You have to say it.
My name is Cote Deonath, and I am the ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Champion of 2023.
He's bragging already. No, I remember when, Cody, we are so proud of you. I don't think there's ever been somebody win. I know I always talk about everybody who's happy when Dwight Eisenhower won and Dean Z. And I don't think there would have been a riot had you not won this year. I don't think I've never seen that many people so happy a guy won the ultimate. So just what's going on in your head right now, man?
I don't really know. And I know that's so standard, right? That's such a standard answer for all the guys that win. And I truly understand what every single one of them go through. 'Cause I mean, it's a culture shock. And I never thought that we would get to this point in this journey, right? Like I recently performed my first string of shows this past weekend, and they announced me as the ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Champion. And every time that someone says it, every time that I type it out, every time that I think about it, my stomach does like loop-de-loops. And it's just like, it's fear, it's like happiness, it's, pressure, it's just everything, right?
And it must be relief as well, too.
And it's an odd sense of calmness.
Mm-hmm.
You never have to compete again, ever.
That's the weird thing. And like, I looked at Ben, right, after we
Ben Thompson.
Ben Thompson, yes, Ben Thompson. After everything kind of not dumbed down, but just kind of, we had like a bit of a moment backstage, and I was standing next to him, and I go, "Did you feel like kind of a love-hate relationship right when you won?" He goes, "Absolutely." He goes, it was panic. He goes, because every time that you get knocked off the horse, you got to brush yourself back off and get back on, right? And that's what we are accustomed to when we're chasing this not to be cheesy, but the impossible dream, right? In our industry, that's what we do. And every year it's like you get close to that brass ring. You climb the ladder, or using a wrestling analogy, you climb the ladder and you're going and you're going and you're going right as you're about to grasp the championship. Someone comes and knocks you off with a steel chair, right? And then you lose it. And then you're like, okay, well, we got to get back up and we got to go earn our number one contender shot, and we got to go again, right? And it's the chase.
Yes.
So when you're at the ladder, when they were announcing the people and they announced Moses, and in my mind, I was like, okay, we're not third. I was like, please don't say second. Just please don't. And then they said Jimmy second, and I go, please don't say first. Please don't say first. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. This isn't happening. And of course, if you watch the video, I'm already crying like a blubbering baby. And I think I don't think I've ever, watching it back, everything was such a rush, right? When they and Dean, thank the Lord, Dean Z did not wait. Hardly at all when he followed it up with the first place. And I remember just my body giving out. I truly do. It was, the only thing I can compare it to is winning Tupelo. And like Tupelo, I was all over the place. I hugged Tom. I was hugging the guys. I was all over the stage. I was the only Tupelo champion to not take the check and the guitar on stage. So when I hit the floor and I banged my hands on the stage as hard as I can, because I was trying to wake myself up. I was like, just wake up. You're fine. Like you're in your bed at the guest house. It's all good. You got to wake up and you got to go compete in the finals. That's what I was thinking. And the next thought in my brain was, please, for the love of God, get up and grab the check and the belt. Grab the check in the belt. And so I did that. And it's just, it feels like I'm, like how Doctor Strange pushes you out of your body in the Avengers movies and stuff like that. And it just feels like you're just like floating and whatnot. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm just like, I see my body, but I'm like, we're not really here right now.
Well, I want to brag on Tom Brown. And Tom's the best interviewer in our business. And I am going to shut up and give him the saddle, but I think I'm happier than you, Cody, for you winning. Like I said, I love you. You're my, I've joked about, I don't know if you're my son or my brother. I think so much of it, we've gone through so much together, but Tom was a judge with Joe Mascao and
Joe Gershio.
Yeah. Those are some judges. I mean, you talk about some judges. Cody, you had some judges, Linda Thompson, Spence Sutherland, and who are the other two, Tom? They're so.
There was John Jackson, one of the judges, along with Linda. John Jackson is a musician and a music producer. He's an Elvis aficionado. He's basically created his own college major in Elvis music, and is an amazing storehouse of information. And then there was a guy named Richard Ross, who is basically the head of Universal Pictures and Records and from Universal in Los Angeles, who's very knowledgeable. And what I love about all the judges is every year it seems they pick people, and this is kind of what we try to do in Nashville when we pick judges, that there's an Elvis expert. They're all fans, so they're all fans. But then Spencer's looking at it as a performer. Linda's looking at it as, I know Elvis. I know how he moved on stage. I saw him hundreds of times. John is looking at it as a musician. So there's all these different ways. Richard's looking at it from the standpoint of an executive and the interaction with the audience and the charisma and all that. So everybody brings their strengths, and to get together that many judges and to dominate, I think, like you did, Cote. I mean, once you've won over the crowd, it's, first of all, could you feel the audience reacting to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, there's not a word I don't think that you can use to describe it. It was incredible. I use this word so much, but it was humbling. I mean, there's just really there's no other way to describe it, honestly. And to have that many people, to put your mind at ease, to know that you're in good hands. Like, the Elvis fans are with you. They want this. we're walking together. There's no need to be afraid. There's no need to overthink things. You're going out on stage and you're going to perform to a room full of people that love you and that are with you 100% and have been with you since I was 18 and I started competing for the Ultimate. It was so amazing, and also so incredibly hard not to allow myself to step out of the wall, because there is a wall when you go up there, because you want to stay cool, calm, and collected. You have to, right? You know, and it's a lot to give them enough acknowledgement to let them know that you love them, you see it, you hear it, you're with them, but also you're going out there to do your best tribute as authentic as you can to the man, the mantra, the legend. And that's something that I think is so incredibly amazing, that exchange. There was like an adrenaline shot straight to the heart, man. I mean, like,
well, they were with you. You could feel them, and you're also winning over fans of other guys, because the audience is populated with your fans, and each of what I call the armies of each performer. The armies, the fans, the fandom, and the families of the other guys, and you're one by one winning them over and turning the entire audience into your fan, and that's even harder to do. But I think there's not a performer that competed that wouldn't go, tonight on this stage for this performance, there was no way to beat Cody. There was no way to do it. He came to do it. And interestingly enough, Cote, I didn't see you throughout the last time I saw you. We were teasing this a little earlier. You started your trip off with SummerSlam.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
WWE SummerSlam at the 408.
At the 408.
My downstairs bar and lounge.
Absolutely.
And we pay-per-viewed SummerSlam together.
Ate some pizza, watched Cody Rhodes, watched Dusty Rhodes' son, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, so many good things, man. I loved it. And what I loved about that
was like your last calm night before you went into the fire.
Yeah, exactly. And man, I think about it, and I remember I remember the way that you reacted to it, and it made it so much more enjoyable for me, because you're like, oh my God, I had no idea. And we were, me and Dean call it, there's a term called marking out. Like, you buy into it. You forget that because everybody knows that it's scripted, but they're athletes. There is a sense of skill to it, an immense sense of skill. But there were so many times that we were going, oh my God, oh God, oh my gosh, did they do that?
I'm a classic wrestling guy, and it's like, where have I been the last 15, 20 years?
Literally, and you were like,
Tom, I do two impressions. I only got two impressions. One of them is Gene Hackman's laugh. That one. And the other one is Dusty Rhodes, who Cody Rhodes' dad, when I was growing up. I was like you, Tom. My dad used to take me. I saw Andre the Giant. I saw Hacksaw Duggan's first match ever. I saw the Von Erichs. I saw Fritz Von Erich, Dave Von Erich's first match ever. But Dusty Rhodes, who's the only man that can leap tall buildings in single bound? Who's the only man that can outrun a locomotive? It's Superman. You thought it was me. I had you fooled, didn't I? He was just the best. But Tom, you didn't get to see it because you were backstage, but I've never seen a reaction of the entire room going up to the stage to thank Cody for winning and to show their appreciation. And there's 4 moments that I'll always remember. I got to see him right before, got to see Cody right before he went on stage the first night. He was backstage and the door was open, and I caught his eye and I just said, I love you. It's emotional for me, but then he comes out and just kills it. And then when Jesse Aaron, who won Tupelo, Jesse was so proud to be back on the stage, but he was also such a team player and so proud of Cody. He felt like, Cody's got this. And he came out and he goes, he followed Cody, which was not something he wanted to do in this particular weekend. And he just looked at the audience. He goes, I'm just so proud that I finally got Cody to open for me. I've been wanting that for years, which was hilarious. I was so nervous when Dean started announcing third place because I thought, there's no way Cody's not going to win this. And then when they announced it, I just dropped my head, just started crying, and the whole crowd just went ballistic. But what was the first contest and year that you won to get into the Ultimate?
It was the Tampa Bay Elvis Festival.
And what year was that?
That was 2016. I made my first
And
Ultimate.
did you make it every year after that?
I've made it to the Ultimate every year, fortunately.
What were the places you finished up until this one?
First year, I won the Tampa Bay Elvis Festival, and I finished in the top 10. That was the last year that they had it at the Orpheum, so I got to experience that. That was amazing.
Good.
Then the second year, I was fortunate enough to win Tupelo. Taught me a lot about myself that year. I got cut the first round, and I had to, just get back to who I really was and know that you're not owed or guaranteed anything in life, and you got to work for it. 2018, I won the Branson Elvis Festival, and that was the first year that I made it all the way to the Promised Land and actually placed third in the Ultimate, and I am forever grateful for that. 2019, I was the first qualifier for the Ultimate, winning the Tweed Elvis Festival, and I came back in 19 and went all the way to the Promised Land again, placed third again. Then there was no Ultimate in 2020, and we actually got invited back in 2021 as a past top 5 finalist, and I made it to the Promised Land yet again, and I placed third again, and incredibly grateful for that. And then I went and qualified at the Portage Elvis Festival, and I was the first to qualify yet again for the Ultimate Elvis contest. And then that year I went all the way, and I moved up a spot and I got second. And this past year I won the First Chance contest. I was the first champion for that. And we obviously made it to the Promised Land yet again, and we punched the ticket and finished the story.
And I had come up with the idea of doing the First Chance years ago and I presented it to Tom and Brian Mays about approaching EPE with it, and they just weren't really ready for it at the time. And luckily, Quick Productions was able to implement it last year, and you were the first ever First Chance winner, and you went on to win it. So I think you do owe me half of your prize money. And Cody, I got to tell you, you've won all those contests. I'm so proud of you. And now with this ultimate win, you've almost won as much as I did at Potawatomi. I'm very proud of you. I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
Okay, who had the over-under for this moment in the show before Potawatomi was mentioned? I believe I had 1 hour and 6 seconds, or 6 minutes and 13 seconds. So we're going to go back and run those numbers. We'll put a marker on that, and we'll be putting that out.
And Tom, I wish everybody could see Cody right now, because you can literally, when he's talking about this, see every time he starts talking about himself, he just starts kind of laughing a little bit, because I can tell he's overwhelmed by it and humbled by it, and it's real. And but again, I'm going to back out and let Tom ask you some questions. I've talked too much already, but I just want to tell you again, brother, I'm so proud of you. I love you. You've earned it, not only as a competitor, but what you're doing in this business as a producer, as a performer. You're representing Elvis Presley Enterprises. You're representing Elvis Presley and representing all of us in this business in a way that is special, unique, and we're all proud of you.
I love you, Lou. Thank you, man.
Love you, brother.
So now it's my turn. Isn't it true, Mr. Deonath, that on the evening of, I feel like the prosecutor and the district attorney.
I did it. What?
Just go ahead and admit it.
I was wearing the blue shirt. I threw the.
First of all, Cote, I mean, I'm so proud of you. You had everybody backstage. I mean, we're just blown away. I'm still impressed by the push-ups that you were able to do moments before you went on stage.
I counted how many push-ups.
Just that alone. Cote had all this energy, and he just did jumping jacks and push-ups, all while wearing a jumpsuit and a belt. I mean, I'm blown away by that. And I just leaned over to Ben, who was there watching this with me, and I just thought, if I went down like that, I would not be getting up. So God bless him for that. The energy of youth, enjoy it while you can. It's a wonderful thing. Kudos to Dean Z, who has one of the great poker faces of all time, who was able to, because when you get that envelope, only the accountant knows who's won. And they hand the envelope to the host, and I've had this happen to me many times. You can screw that up pretty easy, let me tell you. But being able to say third place and second place, and knowing that his pal Cote is sitting there with, and he's just seconds away from saying a name that will cause an entire theater to erupt. Kudos to Dean for being able to do that. And like you said, I think it was for you, but I also think he got your name out as quick as possible because I don't think he could contain it anymore.
No, I don't think so.
So credit to him on that.
He did such a phenomenal job hosting this year and in last year. It's such a cool thing.
I love that one of you is, I mean, Joey is a fantastic host.
I love
but
Joey.
It's also an interesting perspective to have one of you, an ETA himself who knows what you're going through. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the science of contests. You approach this and you talk about winning, like I was the first to qualify. Well, that's a blessing and a curse. You're the first to qualify, maybe only days after Elvis Week. And you've got a year now that you don't have to worry about contests. You're in. But you've also got a year to think about it.
Correct.
And to analyze it and to overthink it.
Correct.
And then back away and then overthink it again. You've got so much time, unlike a victor who wins on Monday night and is named champion on like Friday or Thursday, whatever it was.
Exactly. From
last chance to the ultimate. What is your perspective on having qualified so many different ways to get into the ultimate? What is your perspective on having that amount of time and then also having a shorter amount of time?
Man, there's so many different perspectives and I was able to experience it both ways, right? Like my first couple of times qualifying, it was near in the summer. So we only had like 2 or 3 months before the ultimate. And that ensues panic, I remember. And I obviously there was panic because that when I won at that point, like that was like my first couple of times. But then from then on, I really, after Branson, I was the first one to qualify. So it was kind of like when I won Tweed the first time and I was the first to qualify, I was like, oh my God, I've got so much time. I can focus on some other stuff and stuff like that. So I truly think that it's a catch-22. They both have pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to, if you win later in the year, you're trying to do everything you can at that point to prep yourself mentally, physically, vocally, everything like that. And you got to cram that all into like 3 or 4 months, right? Or if you're like Radney who won and Victor who got second, I don't know if many people remember that, but Vic never won the last chance. He got second. So Vic,
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Vic got in with a very rare occasion. And that just proves that anybody can win, man. Anybody can do it. And to think about what they're going through at that time, Radney and Vic, because they took double competitors that year. They're like, oh my God, we've got less than 24 hours. They were talking to them, trying to get their songs in. To be in that position, like kudos to everybody who wins or who has won the last chance, because that's a totally different animal, because you almost have to like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like you got to do the mental prep work before. Right. But at the beginning of it, you have like ample amount of time to get in your own head and get in your own way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think a blessing for me in this sense was working with y'all, working the circuit, working the festivals, keeping my brain occupied, but also knowing in the back of my mind, okay, we're 8 months. Okay, now we're 7 months. Now we're 6 months. Mm-hmm. Now we're 5 months. 4 months. Okay, 4 months is the mark. You got to start cutting Cody out. You got to start doing things. You got to start listening to Elvis. You got to start getting yourself in shape, right? And so I in my case, I loved winning beforehand rather than getting in a little bit later in the game, because it allowed me to kind of have my year, the first half of it, and do whatever I need to do, be who I am, sing how I want to do. And then from then on, from the 6 month point on, to kind of tighten the ship up and start like, all right, you can't do what everybody says. You can't do the Cody runs. You can't do that. You got to cut Cody out.
Yeah.
You got to start doing Elvis. You got to start studying him more and stuff like that. And the funny thing about this year is we all have been so busy that I was honestly the most worried that I've ever been going into an ultimate, because I felt like I wasn't prepared. I felt like my mind was so many different places with the company and with what we're trying to build, and what we are building. We're not trying to build anything. We're building what we've built as a family and as a unit, that I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to give this contest my full attention. And until I locked eyes with the person who was very kind enough to get me into shape mentally.
So how did you do that? How did you focus? How did you get in shape?
Casey, I don't want to butcher her last name, Hutchinson. Okay, just like Deonath.
I think it's pronounced Hutchinson.
Hutchinson.
I think we just learned something with Cody's last answer. Was when I won the last chance in 2013, I didn't not win the ultimate because of Dean Z. I didn't have time to get in shape.
If you'd won in 1989, you'd have been ready.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'd have killed. There's a great movie called Tin Cup, and Rene Russo plays a character that helps him get ready. And that's what Casey kind of reminded me of, Hutchinson. And go ahead, Cody, but this is a neat twist to this.
Was Cody chock full of inner demons?
So, no, yeah, 100% no.
Yeah.
No, but like I said, your mind's everywhere, and it really takes a lot to hone it in, as all of us know, producing and being in a mindset to where you're focused on the business and you're focused on, making your deadlines and all that stuff. And what was very hard for me this year, because we've done 10, we're going to have 10. We've done 10 festivals. And if you count Nashville and Helen, that's 10 plus. I mean, it's insane, man. What we've done as a family, and I don't use that word lightly, as the family, as Tupelo Tom says, and to get my mind, I just didn't think I was going to be able to do it. So I was going in there with I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a strategy for this year. So Casey, actually, we were talking backstage in Kentucky, actually, and she was like, I'm with you all the way. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. And thank you so much. Like, everybody, like, you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, thank you guys. Like, that's just a blanket statement. I didn't think anything of it. And as the weekend went on, we started talking about different things, and she has multiple doctorate degrees, and she was a vocal coach, and she's just incredible with her knowledge when it comes to music and vocals. And the more we talked, the more I found out that she knew how to talk in a coach aspect of things, and it resonated with me. Like my singing teacher talked to me when she taught me how to sing professionally. And she was saying things, and my ears would perk up. I was like, what did you just say to me? Wait, how did you explain that? How do I do this note? How do I breathe this way? How do I listen to the inflections of Elvis's voice on this end? So I knew immediately, like, I was like, I've got to work with you. If you're willing to, if you were serious about that, like, let's try this. And she said, okay, and I'm going to say this. She goes, you're playing chess, not checkers. My music teacher said that to me when we were working on the other ultimate contest and stuff like that in coaching. And so we went from there, and it's truly a mental game. I mean, truly, because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe you can do it, then why are you here? That's the part that I was missing. I went up there all those other years, and I watched myself. I was scared. I didn't believe it. I was looking at this. I was letting the bright lights get to my head. You have to go out there and you have to believe that you can do it, because it resonates to the people. It resonates to the judges, and shut everything else out. That's why I did what I did. I didn't. The last time I saw anybody that I knew was SummerSlam, right? And
yeah, really.
Literally. And I was in my room, and I was, listening to the videos and listening to all the things and going through my daily schedule and regimens. And I learned so much, not just in this sense, because it's not going to work if you just go, oh, I'm just going to do this for this contest, and then I'm just going to go back to my old ways. No, you have to believe it,
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things for me that's taught me a lesson in this crazy thing we call life is having a response versus a reaction. That's so deep. That's so deep. That's so true, because so many people have reactions rather than responses. And it's like, how are you going to, okay, someone takes your song. Are you going to have a reaction, which is fueled by emotion? Or are you going to sit there, gather yourself, and pivot?
Yeah.
It's all about pivoting. It's all about doing this stuff. And like knowing your A plan, B, C, and D plan. And just knowing that you are covered on all ends. And there's no stress when you go into this.
I was going to say, because that mental gymnastics that you go through, a lot of what goes on off stage that the audience might not know is basically the science and the strategy of song selection.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, we did everything from songs to outfits, and we had a plan, like I said, a plan A, B, C, and D. And it's not just like, well, I think that I should sing this song because Elvis did it and it was good. No. What is the reason? What's your why? That was the next thing that we worked on. Why? Why are you singing this? Why am I singing Let It Be Me? It's a plea. It's a plea for love. It's a plea for acceptance. Elvis said, each time we meet love, I find complete love. Don't take this heaven from one. If you must cling to someone, let it be me. Let it be. Jerry said it in the last podcast that you did. And this is crazy, because you talk about the universe and you talk about it giving things back to you. Me and Casey did our lesson planning for that day. And I listened to the podcast right when it dropped. And Jerry was talking about storytelling. And Casey literally just talked about storytelling. You're telling a story. Make the crowd know that you're telling a story. Elvis was the greatest storyteller in the world. What did Jerry say on the podcast? You know what I learned today? Elvis was the greatest storyteller that's ever walked this earth. And every lyric that he had that came out of his mouth meant something. And it was just like this out-of-body experience. I was like, oh my God, this is insane, because there was no way that we were to know like a day before that this podcast was going to drop, and it was just the universe, right? And you just sit there, and if you believe in this, but I believe in it now, the universe will talk back to you.
10-second miracles. I talk about them every day.
Exactly.
Look for that 10-second miracle. Something will happen, and you'll be like, "Oh, there it was. There it was today." You think of a song, and you get in the car, and it's on. You try to do something, and it just becomes so incredibly difficult that you can't do it. But the thing you do instead, something incredible happens.
Exactly.
In a positive way. And it only happened because the other thing didn't happen.
And then you just go about your day. But just know that it happened, right? And same thing with My Way. So our strategy was love and emotion. What other two great things to go out there and perform? And then you're going to hit them with My Way, which My Way, I don't know how I got it. It was my first pick, but there were so many 70s guys, and we're sitting there like going through the ratios of 50s to 70s. And there was a lot of young, early year Elvises in this.
Talented guys.
Talented, young 50s ETAs in this contest. And I mean, I was like, wow, we've got 5. That's incredible, So you go through the song selection period, and I just felt at ease when we submitted it, and there was no second guessing, because I normally do. Oh man, I hope this is right. I probably call our buddy Alex Mitchell and say, I just really, do you really think? And I'll talk to Jeff. I'll talk to you, Tom, and I'm like, is it really that? Like, do you think I'm gonna get? I never said, do you really think? And I never said if either. I said how.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? When?
I used to, I was for a long time, a huge NASCAR fan. And there was a driver named Mark Martin that when he won the race, he wouldn't do a burnout because he said, I'm expected to win the race. It's not a surprise. where's the winner's circle? I'm going there. I mean, I always love that because usually a winner in NASCAR and a lot of things are like, oh my God, I can't believe I won. Well, you're expected to win. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And the way everything happened this year, I think you're in a place you're appreciating it more, but you understand now why all those other 10-second miracles happened previously with third place, second place, third place, second place. You understand now that you've gotten to this side of the river. You know,
Absolutely.
You cross that now, and you understand.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing, you know, some of the guys, there were a lot of first timers, amazing achievements for them getting in the ultimate their first time. And you go through this and you hear things and there was one in particular thing that triggered me, and I was like, whoa, not a bad way, but it was just like, wait a minute. I used to say that, you know, say things of like, you know, man, I just hope that this doesn't happen. And you can't say that. Right. And this is a testament. I hope the guys listen to this, because stay out of your own way, because you are the only person that's in your way. You know, nobody else is. You're not competing against anybody else but yourself.
And Tom, from the stage, all these things Cody's talking about, you were backstage when he talks about the laser focus that he had. I was watching him and I go, this kid's a foot taller and 10 years older than I remember him from a few days ago. And his focus on his hand movements, on the lyric, I understood every single lyric. And Cody, you'd mentioned, and Tom had talked about relief, and I just want to explain to the listeners what they're talking about. You talk about Mark Martin, you know, Tom Brady, all these great athletes. They win a Super Bowl. They got to go compete. All they're thinking about is the next practice. Now that he's won the ultimate, and Cody's won the ultimate, now he can just go out and represent. You don't have that. That's why that relief comes from. You don't have to worry about the contest aspect of it. Now you can just go be the best ETA and performer you can be. And that's why I say he's going to be such a great representative for all of us.
We've talked family. Cote, now you're a member of a huge family of Elvis.
Yes.
You're a member of the family inside your production company because, and by the way, we all have this incredible feeling of love toward you, not just because you write checks, but because we're family. And no one goes against the family. Everybody has everybody's back. Everybody is available at any time to do anything on stage or tear tickets if that's needed because of the family. But now you're a member of another family. You're a member of the Ultimate Tribute Artist Champions family that only have how many members?
Say I'm the 16th.
16, 17. You're 16th. There you go. You're a member of a 16-unit family that no one else understands except you 16. And now your name goes on that trophy.
Yeah.
I was talking to him that night. We had that after dark thing, which was so much fun. And everybody having fun with each other that was on the stage. It was really great. And he looked at me and goes, oh man, I got money too. He totally forgot about the money.
Listen, so no joke. I mean, he's serious. And it's like, I was out front meeting, greeting people after dark, and the accountant ladies are there, and they were like, "Oh my God, congratulations!" Blah 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 blah. And I looked at him and I go, "Oh my God, I won 20 grand! I forgot." And I literally just lost it all over again. And I was like, I don't even care. And they're like, "We'll keep it." I said, "No, I never said that. I never said you should use it as a tax write-off. No." It's just so crazy because I wasn't doing it, and this is again cliche. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because it's something that I wanted since I was a kid. I wanted to have the ultimate. I wanted it.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else in this industry wants it. And I don't think, yeah, my gosh, 20 grand's phenomenal. I'm not pushing that to a side. But you want the lineage. You want to be a part of the lineage. You want to be a part of that title. You want to be a part of like Tom said, the family of ultimates. And as Pat called me that night, welcome to the club, freshman.
Yeah, that was great.
That's cool.
So guess what? Ultimate hazing is real, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's real.
When we did the first chance this year after Cody won, I got up there and Cody was there, of course, and I said, All right, now whoever gets crowned the champion tonight gets to compete and finally take this trophy away from Cody. Of course, we're all just having fun at his expense. Cody, how old were you? Talking about Tupelo Tom with us when you did the recreation of Elvis buying the guitar in Tupelo.
My God, I had to have been like,
13 years
12,
old, something like that.
12 years old.
And I see this picture in the hardware store. It's still there. It's a painting, actually, of this little kid buying the guitar. And I go, that's Cody when he was a kid.
I'm in Town Hall. They told me there's a picture of me in Town Hall, and I just remember Tupelo was the first Elvis festival that I ever went to, and it was in 2007 when Brandon won, and that was the first year. Yeah. And I think they actually they opened up the Ultimate, and there was no you could win your spot, but there was loads of ETAs that entered into the Ultimate and won their spot and stuff like that. And Brandon didn't win that year. He actually won the year after that. And but we saw Brandon, and I got to sing in Fair Park with tracks, and they were doing a youth contest my first year, and nobody signed up except me and Alex Swindle signed up. And Blast from the Past, right? And I did the main stage show, and then that's when they brought me back, and we did the recreation a couple years later, and it was so cool. Such a crazy thing looking back because I have such a strong connection with Tupelo. I really do. Yeah.
And Debbie's daughter-in-law played Gladys, correct?
Yes, she did. Yep. And I did that recreation, I think 2 to 3 years.
And then you aged out.
And then I aged out. And now, I can't fit in the overalls. I don't even know where they are.
That was, and that was 07, 08, and 09. I was a judge. 7 and 8, I was a judge in Tupelo. 7, 8, and 9, I was a judge at the Ultimate in Memphis. And eventually, after having sat back and watched these guys, I couldn't fraternize. I couldn't go to the after parties. I didn't want to see any of the guys because I didn't want anybody to go, oh, I saw him talking to that guy. So finally, after 3 years, I'm like, I want to hang out with these guys. These guys are experts in a study of a man who I grew up with here in Tupelo. But, I always say, if you're doing a trivia contest, you want an ETA on your team because they've looked at it way deeper than fans have looked at it in most cases. As much of an Elvis fan as I am, Jeff, I don't know what ring he wore on his third finger in Roanoke in 74, but
it was a horseshoe.
Cote does. Kidding, no. I mean, there are people out there. Maltese cross is always a good guess for
Maltese cross.
Has a Maltese cross.
He said ring, doesn't matter. Maltese cross.
That's true. Exactly. It was a Maltese cross ring. Sure, fine. Okay. Just say anything quickly with confidence and most of the people will buy it. That's my life lesson. But so it's interesting that you have this place now in your headspace that you've achieved this. And I had this question written down at the very beginning that I wanted to get to, and I think we've gotten there now, is we've talked about what happened at the Ultimate. You've had some days to come to terms with this, to watch the videos, to make sure that it really happened. Yes, that's me on stage. Yes, I did win. Okay. Hopefully by now you've cashed that giant check, and that's sitting in the bank.
I haven't.
You haven't? Okay. Well, I'd get that thing deposited pretty quick. And I would walk in the bank with the big check. That's always been my dream. And by the way, bigcheck.com is where you can buy those. You can get those. You can get them yourself. Bigcheck.com.
Oh, yes. Bigcheck.com. I'm writing that down.
So, okay, Cote, what's the next stage now? You've had this planned out. You can now activate the next stage. The booster rocket has taken you off, and it's time to go to the next stage. What's next?
Tour and represent as many places as I can for 365 days. We're so obviously just such an amazing thing that everybody has built with the festivals and stuff like that. And we have that avenue that we're going to ramp up and to so many different ways. But also I've actually started booking myself on an Elvis tour. Unknowingly prepping, I guess, for this in the universe. And now it can be called the Ultimate Elvis Concert Tour. And we can do that. And that's the next step. I love the festivals. I can't wait to step on the stages of all the different venues that we have booked and all the different places we're going to go. Mount Dora, Arizona, and Texas are the next ones, and Georgia are the next ones up, and then re-step on the stage with my brothers and mine, Myrtle Beach Elvis Festival stage. I can't wait to hold the mantle and entertain there, but I want to go everywhere. I don't want to have a moment to rest this year.
That's great.
And I don't think I am, because there's the weekends are filling up very fast. Going internationally was a big goal of mine, and we actually I'm fortunate enough to say that we are going to Australia multiple times next year. Talking about going to Norway, Germany, England, Canada, and
Texas.
Texas. Yeah, because that's a whole nother country.
International, yeah.
The Franklin Theater will be the home of Cote Deonath.
Yes.
Luckily, Brian Mays and myself locked him in at his pre-ultimate price. For 4 shows on Saturday and Sunday, December 16th and 17th, a matinee and a night show.
I want to talk about that really quick. Y'all have grown that.
Well, we went from 1 show to 2, and then we went from 2 to 4. It may be a festival of just Christmas shows.
Man. I mean, we're up to 4. I mean, it's so cool. And to be back at, where the Nashville Elvis Festival started and still have that vein that you guys are in, and to drive the people to the bigger venue because you guys outgrew that venue. And it was time for a move, and you guys found a new home at the Factory, and it's such a great venue. It feels like home. We were talking about it backstage at the Ultimate after everything transpired, and we're talking about now it can be the Ultimate Christmas with a King or something like that. Whatever we were talking about, we were just talking about whatever came to our minds. And you were like, we were already talking to the production staff. They're excited. They know that you won. It's going to be great. And they know how it is, man. It's like a well-oiled machine when you walk in there. And to come from the Palace, and Jeff bringing his friend Santa Claus in all the way from the North Pole, and being able to be a part of it in the early years of the concert, and just growing it from there to the Franklin Theater, and then having 4 shows is just incredible, man. And it's an extension of the Nashville brand too. It's a staple
for you also as a performer to be able to have a group of songs that you only get to sing 1 season a year
and relearn them every year just in time for the show to take place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. I say it on stage every time. I'm like, I told you guys that I was going to learn these songs. And then, Christmas got over, and, then I wanted to celebrate Easter and sing all those great Easter songs that we know and love.
I think I need to win the Ultimate Santa Claus contest, and you can bring me at my new Santa Claus rate. I think is what we need to do. And we got it. It's so great with the festivals, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Aaron Sykes and Jeannie Nichols too. Actually, after Cody won, Aaron sent this email. She was a great athlete, and her sons are great athletes, Axel and Braxton both, and of course Braxton's a genius on guitar. And he's a young up-and-coming ETA, and her husband was a great baseball player. She sent out this email to all the team and the family, and it was so Vince Lombardi-esque. I mean, I was ready to strap on a helmet and go play anybody. I get crushed nowadays, but it was so inspiring, and it was all about us working together and being a team. And it's so weird, Tom, that you had mentioned whether it's tearing up tickets or putting sashes on seats or taking the stage. We all take it serious, and we all move forward, and it was so inspiring. And that's the kind of team that I started in Helen, and I feel like Cody has really mastered with all of his festivals, that we work so well, and we are a family. And that's just one other step and one other bonus to this victory that while Cody won it, we can all share in, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, it like I said, it was I had only been doing a few Graceland tours by the time the contest took place. So when Cody's leaving on this high with winning and everybody celebrating, then the next day I had to go to work.
Yes, you did.
With my thing. And to me, it's always our family of performers. It's like at one moment in time, somebody's got the baton running with it. And it's like, okay, Cote's got this now. Okay, Cote's coming to the end. Okay, I gotta get ready. Or Dean's gonna Dean's gonna take it. Boom, Dean's got it. He's running with it. Okay, now I gotta go do 3.5 hours of conversation.
Exactly.
Hand me the baton. I got it for the next 3.5 hours. Like we all like have this system down that we're ready when the moment's there, but especially in this case, to be able to sit back and be so proud and so happy for you, and to feel like I said, like a part of the family. It's like, it's been an amazing experience. I've never been a part of something like this before that's just grown. I'm in my 23rd year hosting events for Graceland.
Wow.
And it's getting more exciting every year. I'm stunned by what EPE can put together for not only Elvis Week, but for birthday, all the festivals that I'm a part of now with Cote. That I'm able to go and do what I do and take that baton and kick it off. And I love when I get my rundowns from Cody, it's just like, and then Tom, you do the Tom Brown thing right here, and then introduce this guy. And whatever that Tom Brown thing is, he's like, you know what that is. Just do your thing there.
And I love the story, Tom, when we took over the festival in Helen, and me and Carolyn and Jeannie and Brooke and Susan were having this teleconference. And I said, I know this is my festival, but what do you guys think about bringing in the greatest MC in our business, Tom Brown? I was a little hurt at how fast they said, yes, please. But and so that you came in and started doing that. And one thing I was thinking about, once you guys are done running with your batons, then you hand it to the oldest one here to go do the after parties. Thanks a lot for that job. But I get to stay up late while you guys are done working. But you're right.
I appreciate you saying the oldest one. So thanks for that.
Yeah, almost.
No, almost. Yeah. I stay young because I try to be in as many photos with young people as possible.
And Tom, I want to brag on Cody as well. Something we won't talk about. You'll have to see it at the festival. But I can just tell you the conversation we had last night. He's not settling for being an ultimate. He's already thinking of other ways to grow with the festivals, to expand the festivals, to expand his show, to write new shows. That's the way we've always looked at things, is to have honesty, integrity, and to continue to improve and create. And then to have all these young ETAs coming up that are so talented, like Jerry Schilling told you, Tom, put him in front of Elvis, he'll do the rest. Yeah. And I'm honored to be just a small part of that with us and this team.
And Cody, as you were talking about what your plans are and what your plan had been, it reminds me, I was a theater major, and in theater, one of the classes we have is improv comedy. And when you're improving together on stage with another actor, the rule of improv is it's always yes and, it's never no. So if I say we're on a spaceship heading for Mars, as a performer, you don't say, no, we're not, we're in a taxi. You build on it. The rule of improv is yes and. We're on a spaceship headed for Mars. Yes, and Elvis is on the spaceship with us. Yes, and so is all the Memphis Mafia. So
Absolutely.
It always builds. I love your attitude about this, is now that you're the ultimate, yes,
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
blank.
Yeah.
It's positive forward.
I just, the sky's the limit now, right? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
That chapter, like I said, we've closed the book on that chapter. We put the period down. We finished that story. Now we've got a new book, and we're going to start writing another one. And this is it, man. I mean, I am so excited about what, I'm sure that I've talked to both of you about what we're going to do next year, and the fans are going to have to wait a couple more months to find out what we're going to do, because we're not going to tell them. We can't show our hand. But it's going to be incredible, and it's going to be amazing, and we're going to do it as a family, and we're going to do it.
And I can't believe you talked me into getting in a jumpsuit. I really can't believe that's just people are going to be amazed.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, Mimi's making your wig right now, and She's actually making, because you're gonna have to shave. So we took a mold of your goatee while you were asleep.
I've got a piece to go. I've got a piece
Oh,
to
you
go
do?
on the chin.
Okay, good.
I've got a piece to go on that. Yeah, it's prosthetics. I'm using prosthetics.
Prosthetics.
Yes. Whatever that word is.
Mimi Palzon, by the way, has a great company that she makes wigs and sideburns. Be sure and look her up.
Strictly Elvis sideburns and wigs.
Strictly Elvis. It's phenomenal. She's worked on Oscar-winning movies and just has an amazing talent. But
The Grinch, Planet of the Apes.
And The Shape of Water.
That was a weird movie.
But I know I speak for everybody, Cody, when I say that everybody that was at the Ultimate, including the entertainers, everybody that was part of EPE's Elvis Week and was part of the core group is so proud of you and so happy for you. And there was only one guy that could have won the Ultimate, and that was Cote Deonath. And, man, we love you and congratulations.
I love you guys too, man. I love you. And like I said, I'm gonna represent it with respect, and I'm gonna hold the title well, and I'm not gonna stop, because it doesn't end. You're an Ultimate forever. You have that next to your name. It never goes away. You're just, but you got to make this is an interesting take, and I want to say this. People look at the Ultimate and they're like, man, the Ultimate's going to make your career. It doesn't make your career. It never made anybody's career. The man makes the Ultimate. That's what happens. You make the Ultimate.
Yes.
You have the number one marketing tool and number one name in our industry. What are you going to go out there and do with it?
Yes, and.
Yeah. That's it. That's how I look at it. That's how I've looked at it so many times. And you can do what you want with it, and you can drop it too, whatever you want to do, because
I'm personally glad that Pat Dunn and all the other guys are going to begin the hazing process of you.
They just have to remember that I write their checks. So
that's
kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's true. So don't break his hands, whatever you do.
Don't break my hands, please. I can't hold the pen in my mouth. It just doesn't work.
All right, Cote. I don't know when the next. This is Money in the Bank, baby.
Money in the Bank.
I'm so excited for
a wrestling pay-per-view.
Yeah, we got it now. The tradition is. We have to do SummerSlam before Elvis Week.
Let's go to SummerSlam next year. How about that?
Thing now.
And then we'll fly. We'll fly in.
Let's do it
to Memphis and have no voice.
There you go.
And you'll be talking like this the entire time and scream for Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. Cote, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for making time. And we will see you down the road.
Absolutely, fellas. Thank you so much for having me. And I love you guys. Thank you for everything.
In case you didn't know, Jeff, that's Cote Deonath, the new Ultimate Champion right there.
2023 Ultimate Elvis Champion of the World.
Hey, don't go away. We are not done talking. Yes, we have more. Yes, and.
The Texas Elvis Weekend is happening October 5th through the 7th at the Waco Convention Center. Starring Vic Trevino, Donnie Edwards, Craig Parker, and 11 other world-class tribute artists paying tribute to the legacy of the King of Rock and Roll. This event is officially licensed and endorsed by Graceland and the estate of Elvis Presley. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit www.texaselvisweekend.com or call 352-789-7269.
Well, Jeff, we still have some talking to do before we wrap this thing up. And one of the things I want to talk to you about, and to let Elvis fans know, if you haven't done this yet, either on CD or LP or on any of the streaming services, there is a new set of Elvis Aloha from Hawaii, a new mix that Ernst Jorgensen and Roger Seaman from RCA and Sony, and Matt Ross Spang, the Grammy Award-winning producer, has worked on this project. We had an Aloha listening event at the Guest House Theater, and we played selections from this, and it's also available. The entire listening event, my interview with everybody, exists out there on the internet, and we'll put a link for that on our Talkin' webpage. But it's interesting if you've listened to Aloha from Hawaii as many times as I know you have and I have, to hear this mix. Because think about this, when Aloha happened, it happened on the night of the 14th. Those tapes were sent back to Los Angeles. They mixed the LP in one day. Wow. 4 sides, 20-some songs. They mixed it in one day, and that's the version we've been left with all these years. Now Matt has gone back into those master tapes. He has exactly what the mix was, and he said he was stunned when he started listening to the tapes, and there was all this stuff that got mixed out. Piano, strings, horns, things that you've never heard before. It's an entirely new listening experience. I suggest starting, if you just want to get an example of it, find the American Trilogy that's on this version and listen to that. You're going to hear things on that you've never heard before, either if you listen with earbuds or headphones or in the car. And I can't recommend it enough. It's an absolutely fascinating release, and you really hear the artistry of what they had live in that venue. It's amazing. The Aloha from Hawaii 50th anniversary edition.
And you played part of it at Conversations. I could not believe the difference in the sound.
That's right. Yeah, Ernst came to that as well. We got that in front of those fans there as well. I always say that anytime you get a listening party at Graceland, people are going to come, because to be able to listen to Elvis that loud in a theater, that itself, I would go into an empty theater with nothing going on, just Elvis music playing, with how it feels and how it sounds at the Guest House Theater. So I was able to do that. The celebration of Lisa's life was an amazing event that Jerry Schilling was a part of, that we had talked about. Plans kind of shifted on how that event was going to run. Linda Thompson became a part of it. Just a lot of an emotional evening just right before candlelight, with Joel Weinschenker hosting. I attended the gospel brunch with the Blackwood Brothers for some gospel music, and that's always an amazing thing. But one of the shows I wanted to talk about was the Rockin' the Jukebox show, where the guys, the ETAs, get together and kind of do their alter ego artists. You know, they're known for doing Elvis. So Dean Z did his tribute to Ricky Nelson. Brandon Bennett did his tribute to Garth Brooks. Ben Thompson, Roy Orbison. Tara was there, David Lee's wife, and she was giving her tribute to Reba. And Jay Dupuis brought some Elvis to the screen and to the stage. But until you've seen Dwight Eisenhower as Elton John, until you've seen that, I don't really think you've seen Dwight Eisenhower. It's the first time I'd ever seen anyone wearing angel wings backstage.
Yes.
For way longer than he needed to. He was ready hours before the show. Dwight Eisenhower's tribute to Elton John. He's seen Elton. I don't know. He's seen him like 60 something.
180 times. Some insane number.
An amazing amount. It's absolutely one of the most wonderful experiences to hear him. And I was sitting over on the side of the stage in the audience, but I was in his direct eye line. So throughout many of the songs, he would be singing and he would just throw in like, Tommy Brown knows what I'm talking about. I mean, just absolutely hysterical. And he becomes Elton John backstage. Dwight is not there. He is Elton. And there's one other person, Jeff, that I wanted to mention as we're talking about August events at Graceland, and that is the fact that we are there remembering Elvis around the day of his passing on August 16th, but it was August 14th in 1958 that Gladys Presley passed away. And I always like to remember her during August. And I know a lot of fans, they send flowers to all the Presleys that are there. But I did want to acknowledge Gladys Presley's passing on August 14th. And I also, in August, Jeff, always remember someone, you know, they always say that celebrities, they pass in threes, you know, kind of out there. Mm-hmm. There was a celebrity. And now imagine being a celebrity who passes away only a day or two after Elvis in 1977. 3 days, on August 19th, 1977, Groucho Marx passed away, one of the Marx brothers.
Wow.
And I've always kind of felt bad for him for that, because everybody, I mean, he's one of the greatest comedians on film and in vaudeville ever, and passed away 3 days after Elvis. It was years before people realized that Groucho was gone. But just always like to remember Groucho. And as we close up this episode, I think we've had an amazing opportunity to get inside the head of a winner of Cote Deonath. And just, I'm so proud of him and the plan that he had. And he has finished that book. He has finished that chapter. He has put that ultimate book on the shelf. And it sounds to me like he's beginning a new one. And we wish him all the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So unless you can think of anything else, no other Marx Brothers are gone that I know of since then.
Babe Ruth died on August 16th.
But he had his years.
Yeah, he had his year. Yeah, not 1977.
I mean, we had time to get used to that. I mean, he had looked portly and bad for a long time, and then when he finally went on August 16th. But other than that, I can't think of any other thing to say other than I hope everybody had a great time at Elvis Week. I want to thank everybody for watching virtually, because I know we were virtually available. I was hearing from people in England and Europe that were watching my conversations, which I think I came on in the middle of the night in some places. But thanks for them for watching the virtual. And I have a feeling that, Jeffrey, we will see each other down the road here pretty soon.
Very soon, just a couple of weeks.
Working for the ultimate. So without further ado, I'm Tupelo Tom.
And I'm Big Lou. And we're done talking.
If you've enjoyed this episode of Tupelo Tom and Big Lou Talkin', please visit us online at www.tupelotombigloutalkin.com and on Instagram and Twitter at Tupelo Tom Big Lou, or drop us a line at tupelotombiglu@gmail.com. This podcast is made possible by executive producers Jeff Lewis and Tom Brown, producer and editor Alex Mitchell, technical advisor Michael Cullifer, promotions and marketing advisor Cote Deonath, and also in part by our sponsors and listeners like you. Do you have an Elvis-related event that you'd like featured on Tupelo Tom and Big Lou Talkin'? Email us at tupelotombiglu@gmail.com to find out more.